All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to ANC3C's November public meeting. We will go ahead and get started. This meeting is recorded and posted to our YouTube channel and our website. So we will first establish a quorum. I am Janelle Paggets representing 3C03, 3C08.
Here.
3C07.
Unmute.
Let's skip for now. 3C06.
Here.
3C05 is absent and on holiday. 3C04.
Present.
3C02.
Present.
3C01. Okay, and 3C07, are you able to unmute and announce your presence? Because I see you. Okay. Well, we do have a quorum. So moving on, I can verify that notice was sent to the major listservs, Clinton Park Main Streets, Woodley Park Main Streets, the community associations, the ANC notice list, our Twitter, and our website. We will move on to the approval of the agenda and what is on the consent calendar. A few items to note of changes that I know to the agenda and the consent calendar is we will be moving the resolutions or the resolution regarding the housing segregation and restricted covenants to commission business. We will take that on first before we take on an addition, which is to commission business, which is our ANC annual report that is due to the Office of the Advisory Neighborhood Commissioners by December 1st. And then to go over what is on our consent calendar remaining after that modification is the approval of our October 2023 meeting minutes, a resolution in opposition to Washington Gas's application to the DC Public Service Commission for the approval of the Project Pipes 3 plan, a resolution regarding modification of consequence for the BZA case number 20458-A, Washington International School, 3100 Macomb Northwest, a letter to request to convene a school improvement sit for MacArthur High School and construction of promised auditorium, a resolution requesting to improve menstrual product access in District of Columbia Public Libraries, and a resolution honoring Gigi of Manhattan Market for her service to the Woodley Park community. Do any commissioners have any other changes to the consent calendar or wider agenda other than the ones I just mentioned? Okay, all those in favor of approving the items on the consent and the agenda to move forward at this meeting, raise your hand or say aye. All right, seeing all the hands are up. Any opposed? Say no, or I can't see you, Commissioner Kripke. So with that voice vote, we'll move forward with approving the items that were on consent and this agenda. So we will go on to the announcement section. So single member district reports. Does anyone have a single member district report to share this evening? Commissioner Prinzo.
Thank you, Commissioner Paggett. I just wanted to mention that we in my single member district have been getting a lot of interest in the OAG lawsuit against the district's 14 largest landlord companies, as well as RealPage. If anybody has any questions about it, feel free to email me, or actually they can email all at anc3c.org and we can get them in touch with OAG. I think somebody's here, but I know they're not really looking to answer questions right now because it is an active lawsuit.
Great.
Other than that, that's it for me.
You. Any other single member district reports this month? Commissioner Geis.
Thank you very much, Chair Pagets. Yeah, so I've been in touch with a lot of residents who are very concerned about a strange sound, a very loud ringing sound coming from the 2600 block of Woodley Place. I've been getting a lot of people talking about this, so I just want everyone to know that I and others are looking into it, and we'll hopefully get that to stop very soon.
Do you have any idea what it is?
Not at this time. All we have are theories.
Okay, great. Thank you for looking into that. Appreciate it. Any others? As for 3C03, I just want to, there was a fire in my building at 3100 Connecticut. I would like to thank the fire department, the executive office of the mayor, the Red Cross, EMS, everybody who, and all the neighbors in the surrounding buildings who, you know, came out and helped with that. The fire department's action was great. Nobody was injured in the fire. And it was contained to a very small area of the building. So really, really appreciate all of that. And thank everybody for what they did. All right, with that, and seeing no other single member district reports, we'll move on to committee reports. Again, Commissioner Siddiqui is on holiday, so we'll skip the Safe, Sustainable, and Equitable Transportation Committee, Transportation and Public Process. Any updates?
No, not yet.
Okay, Community Engagement and Grants.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We have no report this month.
Okay, Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development.
I don't think we have a report. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Lots of things happening on the avenue, but I think nothing to discuss today.
Yes, just the resolution that we'll be discussing later, which was discussed at last month's Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development meeting. And then we will also be noticing our next meeting. The notice will go out next Monday. The meeting will be the following Monday, and we just have a couple of items on that I know of right now. So look for that next week. Residential historic preservation.
Nothing recent to report on that.
Okay. Environmental justice.
Yes, we had an excellent meeting of the Environmental Justice Committee this month. We had Earl Utzler from the Urban Forestry Division of DDOT speak to us about DC's tree canopy. I found the discussion to be very useful. We all nerded out a bit on the data tools that he presented to us. And the recording's up on our YouTube channel. I felt it was a really good intro presentation to their department and their work that folks can check out. And if there are any further questions, happy to help put people in touch with Mr. Utzler or the appropriate person at UFD. So yeah, I was very excited about that. We don't have an agenda yet for our December meeting. We have a couple of ideas, but if anyone in the community has any suggestions, I'm happy to hear them. Just get in touch. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And yes, that was a very fascinating discussion and presentation, and thank you for putting that together. Cool. Public safety.
Sure, thanks. The ANC Public Safety Committee, which Commissioner Prinzo and I co-chair, held its organizational meeting last week and heard from Lieutenant Johnson from the 2nd District, as well as heard from the Woodley Park Main Street organization. We had gotten feedback from Cleveland Park Main Street as well.
We discussed a number of things, including shorter term plans or ideas to increase public safety, particularly on the Connecticut Avenue corridor, including possibly institution of foot patrols, which Councilmember Fruman supports. We discussed other ways to address public safety and individual needs. We discussed as well, and picking up on what the commission chair said earlier, engaging on fire safety in the area, including for buildings that lack sort of the modern fire monitoring and suppression systems, whether the ANC can partner with evacuation plans or with short-term shelters when buildings have to be evacuated because of fire. We specifically discussed as well and heard from the Cleveland Park Citizens Association, which has had an active public safety committee, on how we can partner again to enhance public safety, be proactive on crime, and look for ways to provide alternatives to the criminal justice system where those are appropriate. We are seeking citizen members. Several members of the community have come forward to serve on the committee, as we have with other ANC committees. And I would ask you to get in touch with Commissioner Prinzo or me, or with your ANC representative if you have any interest in joining and being part of the committee. Thanks. Adam, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And thank you for the reminder to plug. Anybody who wants to join any of our committees, reach out to the chairs of any of them or your single member district commissioner, and we can discuss that moving forward. So we're always looking for help from the community. Appreciate it. Moving on to anyone from the mayor's office. Matthew, did you have any brief updates to give?
Yes.
Cool.
Hi, everybody. How are you? My name is Matthew Barclay. I'm the Ward 3 liaison for the Mayor's Office, Community Relations and Services. I will try and be brief. Last week, Mayor Bowser joined the presidents of Howard University and the University District of Columbia to officially launch the new HBCU Public Service Program. The HBCU Public Service Program is a first of its kind partnership that recognizes the important impacts that HBCUs have had in DC, and will create a new pathway to public service for graduating students from Howard and UDC. All right. Next, Mayor Bowser also issued 2 public emergencies this last week to allow government to respond more efficiently and urgently to 2 separate issues that, since the pandemic, have not only persisted but worsened: the opioid epidemic and youth violence. Through the mayor's order, the district will be able to immediately modify current data sharing agreements between DBH, DC Health, and FEMS to require DC district agencies to input suspected non-fatal overdoses into a common data tracking system to provide a complete picture of opioid-related fatal and suspected non-fatal overdoses as they occur, allowing for deployment of outreach teams to overdose hotspots in impacted areas and for harm reduction services and supports. Excuse me. For juvenile crime, mayor's order, the district will be allowed to take emergency measures regarding capacity across the continuum of placements for youth at shelter homes, group homes, supervised independent living facilities, secure facilities, residential treatment centers, psychiatric resident treatment centers, and foster homes. And you can, if you're more interested in that, I can send you a link to view the mayor's order. On next topic, Mayor Bowser kicked off the transformation of the Springer High School into the new DC Infrastructure Academy, which established in 2018 as a partnership between the district government and Utility Union University and private sector partners to create a pipeline to in-demand infrastructure jobs for DC residents. So that will be coming soon. Mayor Bowser also kicked off the annual downtown DC holiday market that is now through December 23rd. So go check that out. It happens every year. And then leaves. So they are finishing up, DPW is finishing up Section B and Section C, which is large parts of Cleveland ANC3C. you should rake your leaves to the tree box or curbside by November 26th, and Section C should start by November 27th. So that's all I have for today. Thank you, guys.
Great, thank you. I had a question about DPW and the leaf collection. We've been hearing a lot about the New Mexico Avenue bike lanes being like littered with leaves, and it's unclear how to get that addressed, because like the bike lane, like clean the bike lane is off the 311 app now. So there's a lot of leaves in the bike lane, and we're trying to get a response, but there doesn't seem to be like a clear avenue of like how to make that happen. So if you could help with that.
Noted. I'm not sure if there's a specific path to take for that, but it seems like should be happening, you know, due to the safety reasons of slipping on your bike on a
Exactly. Thank you. Rick, Commissioner Nash.
I have a follow-up to that. I have heard more questions and comments from constituents on the new leaf collection program. You know, this time than I have on any subject in probably a couple of months. I think people are still trying to understand it and get the hang of it. And, you know, I've been directing them to sign up for the email alerts and to go to the website. Are you finding that DPW is pretty much sticking to the schedule now that it is putting out? So when, you know, the B sector is collected and then the C sector, are they on time, and can people pretty much count on that now? You know, assuming there's not a major storm or something.
Yeah, and you can, and also every Friday the website is updated with what has been done that week, so you can see that like this week is Section B, and they've been doing Section B for about a week now, and like about 2/3 of it have been done. And so that's right on track for a start on Section C and the about the 27th, you know, with the holiday and all. So the DPW app is really good. It shows you by street, like what's been done. And then also, like, if you go, like, let's say that they do miss your street, when they're, you know, say after Section 3C is done and they move on to 3D and 3C still hasn't been picked up, please submit a 311 request and then send that to me, and we'll get on it.
Okay.
There will also be a second pass going through A, B, C, D again after D is completed.
Okay.
They're roughly about 2 weeks per section.
Yeah. No, I'm sure, you know, by next year everyone will get the hang of it. But between this new leaf collection system and then, you know, the fact that yard waste is being picked up separately through 311, I think people are confused, and, you know, more outreach over the next year will help. But thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it is the first year we're doing it this way, so it makes sense.
Hopefully it doesn't change again next year.
I think this year's.
And next month at our December public meeting, I'm hoping to get somebody from DPW to present and ask questions, because they've reached out wanting to come. So we'll have that opportunity next month as well.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone from Councilmember Fruman's office have any announcements? Okay, seeing none.
I'm sorry, I was having trouble unmuting myself. My name is Shanti Swin Brown. I'm from Councilmember Fruman's office. I'm the scheduler and consistent services specialist. We don't have a whole lot of updates. We did change our workday in the ward, which is now going to be on Sunday, December the 3rd from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Black Coffee. So there is when you can go have coffee with the council member from 8 to 10, and then we're trying to get other government agencies to come out. So if you have any questions for agencies or to us, we'll be there for you guys. Another thing is Councilmember Fruman's covenants bills. We're having a hearing on that on Friday, December the 8th at noon. So if anyone would like to testify, they also offer a virtual option or in person as well. We encourage you to do so on the council's website, and the deadline for that is 5 p.m. on Wednesday, December the 6th. I think Mr. Nash reached out to our office, but Stephen, who was our legislative director, is no longer with our office. So Elias Benda, who is our legislative assistant, he's been stepping in to fulfill that role. So any legislative questions will go to him, and I'll be sure to put his email in the chat. And any constituent services related issues will go to either you can call us or our main office inbox, which is frumanoffice@dccouncil.gov.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Prinzo?
Yeah, sorry. What day was workday in the ward? You cut out a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. On Sunday, December the 3rd, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Black Coffee.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem. We encourage people, if you can come out, please come out. We'll love to hear from you. And we're trying to do our best, so please come out, talk to us.
Great. Thank you. Glad to be hearing that it's going to be held on a weekend and not a weekday this time around. So it's helpful. Thank you. All right. Any other agencies want to speak at this time?
Hi, Commissioner. This is Juan Ulloa with the Office of the Attorney General. Good evening, everyone. Juan Ulloa here. I am one of the community engagement specialists with the Attorney General's community engagement team. I just want to thank Commissioner Prinzo for taking the initiative. As he stated, this particular case is ongoing, and unfortunately, with things of this type, could be a rather lengthy case. However, if any residents have questions, concerns, we are compiling that information into a tracker that we forward regularly to our antitrust team so that they can address constituent issues directly. So please compile as much information as you can and forward that along to us. We look forward to collaborating with you. To my colleague from Councilmember Fruman's office, I've done several of these events and they tend to be very great and a good time, frankly. So looking forward to joining you all on Sunday as well, if that's possible, if there's room for us. And certainly, once we have that confirmed, we can certainly invite the public to meet with us over there as well. But we're looking forward to collaborating with you on this effort and many more. Thank you.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Any community organizations or associations have an update at this time they'd like to provide? All right, Cassandra.
Thank you, Janelle. Well, if you haven't been to Cleveland Park lately, then you should head down on Wednesday after Thanksgiving at 4:30 p.m. We're going to be celebrating the new mural that was finished as of yesterday on the outside of Spices, but with hyper-local artist Claire Sharp, who lives in Cleveland Park. Holiday Lights has begun in Cleveland Park and various other Main Street corridors. I know Woodley Park is participating. Lights are up until January 7th. You can visit dcholiday.lights.org to learn about scavenger hunt and how to win prizes. On Saturday, December 2nd, in the Cleveland Park Promenade / Service Lane, we will have our 3rd annual winter market from 2:30 to 7:30. Do need some volunteers just to help set up. If anyone's interested, email me, Cassandra@districtbridges.org. And last but not least, we are having a Santa bar crawl in Cleveland Park on December 16th. It is a fundraiser for the Main Street. Tickets are only $15 and wear your best Santa outfits. Thank you. Or elf.
Question. Do we need to buy like tickets, or how do we give the 15?
You can buy a ticket on Eventbrite. I can put the link in the chat, or you can just pay at the
That
door.
would be great. I know like Ordway Street is fielding a team and shocking no one. And I also have some folks who may want to do caroling that I might connect you with.
Amazing. You can also get tickets at the door, which will be at Atomic at 5 p.m. All right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. Anyone else from community organizations or associations? Okay, seeing none. We will now move on to the presentation section of our agenda. We have Julia Irving, the Deputy Director of Community and Government Relations from the DC Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement here to give us a presentation and allow us to ask some questions. So welcome and thank you for joining us. I've just made you a co-host, so the floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the co-hosting capabilities. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you all for this opportunity to take you down the lane of the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to put it in slideshow mode. All right. And so here we go. So again, thank you so much. My name is Julia Irving, and I have the honor of serving in the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. It is pronounced ONSE, though if you look at it from a grammatical standpoint, and as an English major, I do agree, it should be pronounced ONSE, but we do refer to it as ONSE here. Most persons in the community know us, and it is not advancing, but most persons in the community know us as the entity that comes in and stops violence. However, we do so much more than that. And so just so you know, we're going to go down a journey in the ONSE world, and we're going to talk about all of our programs that we offer. And then at the end, I will receive questions from the broader community, but I would like to address the questions that were given to us. And the mission of ONSE, as it states here, is really to foster community-based strategies. I think the best way to explain it to the community is that our office, we are the premier entity to address gun violence in the District of Columbia. And oftentimes our office is confused with the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. And so the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, they're really focused on policies, whereas the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, ONSE, we're focused on programs. So we take the best practices and the researching and policies that OGVP provides, and then we implement it programmatically within the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. Director Quelly Sneed currently serves as our interim director. Director Sneed was appointed in late June after the transition of Director Linda Harley Harper. Prior to Director Harley Harper's transition, she did serve as the director in the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement and the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. And Mayor Bowser was very intentional in that collaborative effort to bring these two entities together to really begin to address the crisis and now the pandemic of violence that we experience here in the District of Columbia. As I shared before, most persons, they either know ONSE because of our Pathways program, or they know us because of the VIs or the people that's supposed to stop violence, but we're so much more. We have a family survivor support team, and we also have a ONSE Leadership Academy. And so now is an opportunity for us to learn a little bit more about those respective programs. And my keys don't want to work with me, so okay, there we go. And so for our violence interruption, and you'll oftentimes hear us say VI. And one thing that I would like to share, in the District of Columbia, there are 3 VI entities. So you have the Office of the Attorney General that has their VI entity, which is referred to as Cure the Streets. And that's a ceasefire model that was born out of Chicago, Illinois, that was then implemented nationwide. And in the Cure VI model, you have approximately 4 violence interventionists in a 2-block radius that are providing intensive services in that 2-block radius. Then within the Department of Youth Rehabilitative Services, you have what are called credible messengers. They are VIs that are solely tasked with assisting our juvenile population, and that's going to be anyone that is 17 years of age or younger. And though they present as mentors, the credible contacts or messengers with DWRS, they are violence interventionists. So they're there working with those youth, helping them navigate life, but at the same time, proactively monitoring social media so that they can attempt to get in front of any potential conflict that may arise. Then you have the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And as many of you all may have heard in the public safety hearings, our model has morphed itself during the 6 years of our existence. We have gone to Boston, New York, Chicago, New Jersey, even Texas, to really see what model works best. And so when we looked at Oakland and we looked at Los Angeles, we were like, hey, Oakland is a really great model. The challenge is in the District of Columbia, we don't have gangs. We have crews, and gangs are a little more organized. So we had to adjust our model to really represent what it is that we have here in the District of Columbia. And now we're in a position where we can really more closely look at the work that we're doing and begin to validate that model. And we do have support from the Peace Academy that is creating consistency amongst the training for violence interventionists, not only in the District of Columbia, but also those individuals that are in Maryland. Now, our violence interrupters, they're the individuals that are in the community. And oftentimes it's a little challenging differentiating our violence interventionists from those persons that are in the community. And this is why our violence interventionists, they are tasked with engaging the highest risk individuals. They are working with persons that are primary and secondary victims of gun violence. And to do that, they have to build a rapport in that community. Oftentimes our VIs, they are from the focus communities, but in that they're really working with the candy lady, they're working with the mayor of the block, they're working with the grandma of the community, they're working with the youth in the community. And this may look like it, whether we're doing tabling events, or maybe we're jumping rope with them, or perhaps we're delivering groceries. That's the outreach arm. And it's really to build the trust of the community so they can begin to open the doorway to allow us to then begin to engage with those individuals that really need our assistance. And while our outreach team and our VI team is out there engaging the communities, we're learning what their specific needs are so that we can use that as a carrot stick to attract them into our programs. Now, one may say, what is a community of promise? Well, this is a listing of our communities of promise. And our communities of promise, they were born out of the building block initiative that many of you all may be familiar with that came about while we were in the midst of COVID. Mayor Bowser saw the government of a whole approach that we took to the pandemic. So she decided to replicate that for gun violence. And so Building Blocks was created as a result of that. And with Building Blocks, we were really able through data to really pin down and drill down into what communities are really being impacted by violence. And these are communities that were hearing sounds of gunfire daily. But in addition to that, the victimization numbers in their community were off the charts. And so these were communities where we really needed to hunker down, direct resources in there, but also really begin to identify that small percentage of individuals that were contributing to this. And so you will see that every ward here is listed except Ward 3, but you should not worry about that. We're going to get there in a moment. So with our violence intervention, a lot of times we've been asked, well, how do you measure success? Because I still hear gunfire in my community, and I still watch the news, and I see individuals that are being killed. Well, this is a government of a whole approach. And so it's one of those things that when crime is up, oftentimes our office is viewed as, what are you doing to address crime? But when crime is down, we celebrate the Metropolitan Police Department. Well, this is the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice sector coming together as a whole to address gun violence. But a couple of things that our office is really hyper focused on is how many individuals that are in these communities of promise, how many of them have been engaged by our office? What does that engagement look like? What is the frequency of that engagement? And have we seen any modifications in their behaviors? In addition to that, we're really looking to see, and you'll keep me hearing saying government of a whole, because Mayor Bowser is really big that the entire government must play a role in our violence in the district. And so we're also looking to see how many of our government partners have we been able to bring into the community so that the services in this amenity-rich city that we all reside in, that they're actually given to those persons who could benefit most from them. But in addition to that, we're also looking at the rate of mediations. And this is the work behind the scenes that oftentimes our neighbors are unable to see. When a conflict arises, there's a back channel that goes out. So we learn of a critical incident that has occurred. Most times it comes from our violence interrupters because, again, they live in the community. And once this information is relayed that there's been a shooting or sounds of gunfire, immediately there are text exchanges that are occurring. There are phone calls that are being made to figure out who possibly was injured, who might have been involved in this. And it may not be the individual, it's more so what community was involved with this, and then reaching out to that respective community's VIs, especially if it's a community of promise, or if it's one of our OAG Cure the Street sites, or even sometimes our credible messengers from DRS. All of those entities are on the phone and doing a text exchange just to figure out how we can get in front of any potential retaliation. So that's another way that we're looking at it. And then there are instances where there is a critical incident that occurs outside of our communities of promise. And again, we're working with any partners that we have in that area, or our VIs are trying to figure out who they may know in that area so we can begin to thwart that issue. And so you'll see here that we really also are focused on our crews. For those that may be new to the District of Columbia, a crew is a loosely created gang. It doesn't have the structure that a gang has, but it is locale based, similar to a gang. However, in the District of Columbia, you could literally live in the same block, and the top of the block can be one crew and the bottom of the block can be a separate crew. And so that's where it makes it a little challenging. However, we are noticing that more of our conflict is really stemming from social media. We began to see this uptick during COVID when drill music was introduced to our communities, and online video beefs began to occur, or emerge rather. And so we really have a team that's also focused on social media to monitor that social media, again, with our law enforcement partners, so we can, again, get in front of the conflict so that we can timely mediate it. And so this is just an overview of how we do the community. Then we focus on people, and then we focus on groups. Now, once we're able to engage those persons of promise in our communities of promise, our hope is once we offer them the carrot stick and we're able to address their core issue, we can then take the opportunity to work with them for 9 consecutive weeks in our cognitive behavioral transformational program called Pathways. And we like to affectionately summarize Pathways. We take an individual from being on the block to being prepared to be in a boardroom. And we do that through providing behavioral health services to them, a lot of team building opportunities, but we also do soft skills development with them. But similar to the work of our VIs, we take individuals who are accustomed to using their guns and or violence to manage conflict and to operate in emergencies, to using a cell phone like you and I would. If we had an emergency, we're going to pick up our cell phone, we're going to call a good friend, we're going to call a family member, or we may call law enforcement. And so in that 9-week span, we are trying to transform persons from using a gun as an appendage to then using their telephone to access their network. And again, a government of the whole approach. We work with an array of government partners to be able to achieve this, and we're steadily building out this. But one thing that I really want to tout about our Pathways program, so many communities talk about trauma and the impact of trauma. Every single participant, and typically our cohorts consist of 25 males, and it's not to be sexist, just at this time, that's who comes to us. Every single person in our cohort, they have an opportunity to meet with a licensed therapist. Now, the guys will say, the pretty lady that I can talk to, That's the way that we introduce counseling to them. But once they get in the habit of speaking to her and the rest of her team, they are able to begin to explore different challenges and get the tools to be able to navigate it. And all of this is critical in getting them prepared to enter into the workplace. And so our Pathways guys, after they complete their 9-week transformational experience, again, having an opportunity to go to the Wilson building to advocate on public safety issues, they enter into what's a 6-month WEX placement. That's a subsidized employment opportunity. And one thing that we're modifying in our office, as opposed to waiting to the 6th month to see if they're stabilized in employment, we're doing an evaluation at 30, 60, and 90 days. And if that employer doesn't believe that they're going to pick that individual up, then we are out there aggressively looking for partners that can do it. And we're really excited because in cohort 13, 64% of our Pathways graduates, when they graduated from the program, 64% went into full-time employment opportunities. And what does that mean for you? Well, we had one community that was experiencing a lot of violence, and we had 15 individuals, and this was separate than our Pathways program, but we had 15 individuals that we were able to get employed through the Department of Public Works. And all of a sudden, all of the shooting, all of the loitering went away, and no one could figure out, well, what happened? The guys got a job. And they had to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And when they got off at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they were picking their children up from school, coming home, and they were going to bed because those DPW jobs, leave season included, can be a bit taxing on one's physique. So employment really is a key indicator to helping to address violence. And it also allows those individuals to contribute to their household and begin to receive the respect and the honor and the pride that we all would want to have. And so you heard me speak of our people of promise. Our people of promise, again, are those individuals that we're engaging, but they're really a focused group. We are a direct service agency, but we're only a direct service agency for persons that are referred to us through our law enforcement partners and or someone who's come through our program. So our people of promise, those are individuals that, again, were identified through our FBI, local parole and probation, the Metropolitan Police Department, the Nick Jr., the National Institute for Criminal Reform and Justice. All of those partners are the ones that came together to really help us identify the key individuals that had the highest likelihood of being either a victim or a perpetrator of violence. And those are our people of promise that we aggressively go to engage in the community. Now, the other side of our work, in addition to our intervention work and our prevention work to really minimize the occurrence of violence, we understand that gun violence is going to happen. And when it does, a family, they have a lot going on, and adjusting to that new normal can be a little tricky. And sometimes you need someone to walk alongside you while you do that adjustment. And that's where our family survivor support team comes in. This team is really designed to be there in those critical moments after this critical incident has occurred. And again, this is for families whose loved ones have been injured and or have transitioned in our communities of promise and or had juveniles that were victims of gun violence. And our team is there for 90 days, walking side by side with the family, connecting them to resources to assist with burial assistance, to assist them with trauma-informed care. There are some instances where families may need to be relocated temporarily, and sometimes they just need to be relocated to just do it in a fresh community and have a fresh start on life. And it is our family survivor team with licensed social workers that are really working with these families to connect them to community resources, to connect them with government resources, but more importantly, to develop a plan for these families so that post that 90 days, they know the tools and the individuals that can help navigate their new normal. And so this is just a breakdown of what it looks like. So every day, Monday through Friday, at 2 p.m., if a critical incident has occurred, we hop on a call. And on that call, we're talking with our different government partners to see who was familiar with this family? Where did you leave off in engagement? What are some of the service gaps that exist, and how we can go ahead and create a case plan so that we can most expeditiously stabilize that family. In addition to that, our Family Survivor Support Team will be partnering with the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services to conduct what are called community scans. And these are environmental assessments. And so it's taken from the model of crime prevention through environmental design. It's the broken window theory in simple terms. And this is to understand what 311 requests need to be made to improve the quality and standard of life for those individuals that are in the community. But it's also an opportunity to speak to the broader community to understand what their experience was like and what resources we could direct to those communities. And then finally, we have Hola, our ONSE Leadership Academy. And I like to end on a positive note. This is our premier preventative resource. So in our ONSE Leadership Academy, we are inside of 5 schools in the District of Columbia, and we get referrals from administrators, we get referrals from school counselors, and we're really working with youth that are teetering. So oftentimes you'll hear parents say, does my child have to commit a crime to get services? No. If they are in one of our 5 schools of promise, then we're working with that juvenile during their lunch hour, again, bribing them with a quality lunch that's a little different than what DCPS or the charter schools provide. We had to figure out something to get the youth in there. And while we have their captive attention during the school day, we are infusing them with various leadership skills, behavioral health modification, and tools to be able to navigate that awkward stage of middle school, but then also that fearful stage of high school where you think you're grown, but the reality that you really are about to be an adult is hitting, and not quite knowing how to navigate that, and your behaviors manifesting accordingly. And so our team really works closely with them during school holidays. Again, our OLI team engages those youth so that they do not have idle time, because an idle mind can lead to things that, we don't want to think of. So we try to keep our youth as engaged as possible. And then during the summertime, through summer youth employment registration, they continue to work, because we know that consistency in programming truly leads to the modification and the edit of one's character and principles. And so again, I can share this contact slide with the broader community, the broader commission, but these are all of our program managers that work in our respective programs in the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And so now to transition to questions. One question we received is, will we target outreach in Ward 3? So we're in Ward 3. If there's a critical incident involving a gun, and it means someone being victimized. So it's a little tricky, because sometimes there can be a robbery that's conducted and a gun is used in the commission of that crime. Our team won't necessarily respond. But if it is gun violence, our floating team, our violence interventionist floating team, they will come out to that scene. They're really assessing what information they can receive at that time to figure out, is there an immediate threat to the community? Who needs to be engaged so that that individual can, understand different choices that he or she could make, and in some instances make that brave decision to turn themselves into law enforcement. And again, just because our office is the one that's responding, we are also in communication with Cure the Streets, and we're in communication with our credible messengers out of the Department of Youth Rehabilitative Services. We always want engagement from anyone in the city. And that engagement can look like providing leads for potential employment opportunities. If ever someone, a lot of times our guys, they experience housing insecurity. And so if you know of someone that has a property, because our guys, they're employed, it's just oftentimes they've never had a home of their own. So if you know someone that is renting, again, being an advocate for them, but more importantly, going out and just educating a neighbor. You've had an opportunity to walk through the life of ones. And so what we ask is, can you engage another neighbor? Can you engage another stakeholder and share with them what our office does? And then always give us feedback on what we can do differently. And again, opportunities to volunteer with our office. From time to time, we will do back to school drives for our participants, or holiday drives for our participants. Also, if you want a job coach or be a job mentor, rather, for our gentlemen, we definitely welcome those opportunities as well. And I will stop sharing my screen to open the floor for additional questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was a lot of information and super helpful. So I would like to open it up to the commissioners first with any comments or questions. Commissioner Prinzo.
I have more of a comment than a question, but I thank you, Julia, for being here. This was really great. I met Julia at the H Street Festival, and I thought her office was doing really incredible work, because I do think, as we all saw last month when we decided to start our public safety committee, the problem to this solution, and if you hear my dog whining in the background, I apologize. She's having a bad day. But the solution to the current problem that we're having is not going to just strictly be MPD. And I think it was Mayor Bowser this week who said, we're not going to arrest our way out of this problem. So I do think this is really a great program that you guys offer. My only question I will say is, have you ever worked with like a Main Streets program and trying to get some, access to jobs through like a Main Streets program?
I'm glad you asked. So the Anacostia bid, that's not quite a Main Street, but the Anacostia bid, I know Charlie Whitaker is the director of the Clean Streets team, and he has been extremely instrumental in helping to place our guys. And he's a true partner because he understands that some of our guys, there are certain communities they can navigate, and there are certain communities that they cannot navigate, and he has adjusted himself accordingly. And then our violence interrupter vendor, Together We Rise, that's in Ward 6. So that's going to be Greenleaf and Syfax Gardens. He works very closely with the Southwest Bid and the Community Benefits Agreement team down there, as well as the ANC, to identify employment opportunities for them.
Great. Commissioner Gordon.
I mean, number one, just, thank you so much. Incredible work. And most of it was new to me. So just would love to, stay in touch and keep learning about the results and, how we can connect people to them. But thank you for your work.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Nash. Oh, you're on mute.
Thanks. And Ms. Irving, thank you for the presentation and for the very good work that you and your colleagues do. You mentioned, though, that your agency's focus is on gun violence, and for those situations where, thank God, a firearm is not discharged, but that still involve the use of a firearm, such as carjacking. If your agency is not responding, who is partnering with MPD to address this and to address, if not the root causes, at least the trends? Because as we all know, we see crimes like carjacking and armed robbery involving younger and younger individuals. So, besides MPD, what agencies are bringing a more holistic, approach with urgency and focus to the fact that, crime is moving younger and younger, and it would be good to not only address the problem, but intervene so that, lives are not ruined at a young age?
So there are two angles that I'll take to answer it. The first one is to show the intersection. So one thing I omitted in the presentation, every Tuesday, and it is a closed meeting, a lot of people have requested to attend, but to foster the trust between our violence interventionists, we have a Tuesday meeting where all of our violence interventionists, not just the Office of Neighborhood Safety, Cure the Streets, DYRS, and Court Social Services, we all come together and we literally review every single shooting that has occurred in the city, whether it's in a community of promise or not. But in addition, during that meeting, we are looking at where all of the robberies occurred, and we're also looking at carjackings. And so what we do, we look at where a carjacking, the description of the vehicle, and then we look at the summary of the critical incident. And if there's a match in the car, then our violence interventionists, they know that maybe they need to go in this community, figure out, as the youth would refer to them, free cars. We'll figure out where that free car may be, who in the community may know about this free car, so that we can begin to address it. So you will sometimes see the armed carjackings manifest themselves in other crimes that have occurred. But in those instances where there is no direct correlation, just putting on my previous hat of when I worked with the Metropolitan Police Department, they do a weekly crime briefing. And when I was there, it was a twice a week crime briefing, and their community outreach coordinators were in those crime briefings. And it was a matter of educating the community about it to see if they've seen the vehicle and or if they know the individuals that may be driving that vehicle, so that then I know for myself as a community outreach coordinator, then Commander Conti tasked me with identifying community partners that could begin to direct supports not only to the potential perpetrator, but also their family. But I would have to defer to MPD as to how they currently address that now.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioners, and then we'll go to the public. Great. Carl, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Julia. Thank you for being here. You had said there was a drastic reduction in gun violence in a community. You helped some at-risk people, some individuals get jobs. What neighborhood was that?
That would have been, so the proper name of the community would be Saratoga. However, as I shared, in the district, you have crews that are in different sections. So this would be the portion of Saratoga that's closer to Brookland Manor. So this was specifically on Rhode Island Avenue, where it intersects with Monroe Street. There's a 7-Eleven there and a 24-hour store that was the bane of a lot of persons in the community, just because of the amount of loitering that occurred there, but also just the rate of sounds of gunfire, but also the rate of actual victimization by gun violence. And what we found is once the guys were employed, they no longer were hanging in that location. And I actually thought it was because we did a movie night, but I later learned it was because the gentlemen were employed and they just didn't have the bandwidth to congregate in that location any longer, because now they had a job and they had something to really work towards.
Thank you. Any other questions from the community? You can use the reactions button to raise your virtual hand or come on screen and raise your actual hand. Okay, I'm not seeing any. Again, thank you for the work that you're doing and this incredibly informative presentation. And yeah, if there's any opportunities you want us to post on our ANC website, pointing people to resources, to volunteer opportunities, to any kind of, educational events you all have going on, please feel free to share and we'll get that up there and out there. Thank you again, and have a good evening and happy holiday. All right. At this time, we will be moving on to the community forum portion of this meeting. So members of the public are invited to ask questions and raise concerns about issues that are not already otherwise on this agenda. Please limit time to 1 to 2 minutes. So if anyone in the community has anything they would like to contribute at this time, I'd ask that you use the reactions button there at the bottom of the menu screen and raise your virtual hand or raise your actual hand. All right, seeing none, we will now move on to commission business. So commission business, we have moved the resolution regarding supporting Bill 25480, addressing legacies of housing segregation and Chevy Chase Amendment Act of 2023, Bill 2025-481, addressing legacies of housing segregation in Rock Creek West Amendment Act of 2023, and Bill 25-482, releasing restrictive covenants and deeds act of 2023. All of these have been introduced in DC Council by Council Member Fruman, which, as mentioned earlier in this meeting, there is a hearing scheduled for Friday, December 8th, to discuss these in front of the Committee of the Whole. I will put a link to where one can sign up to testify there, provide written testimony, or testify live. And this also links to the underlying bills. I will put a draft of this resolution into the chat. So I would like to move this resolution to a discussion if there is a second to do so.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Prinzo. So with this resolution, ANC3C does take a position supporting all three of the bills and the underlying legislation. This was discussed at the Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee meeting a few weeks ago. And I apologize again that I had to leave that meeting. That was the night that the fire alarm in my building went off. So I appreciate my fellow commissioners and our members of the committee for carrying on the discussion. And I was able to watch the tape. Obviously, I'm posting them on YouTube, so convenient. So with that, the whereases contained within this resolution are basically a copy and paste from the council members' memo introducing these bills. So it's covering the historic covenants and the racial restrictions placed on deeds that are no longer enforceable. However, they still remain on the books. So I will read the resolves with this, and then we will move to discussion. So therefore it be resolved that Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3C supports the bills, as I've previously mentioned. ANC3C strongly supports the legislation to declare void as contrary to public policy any anti-apartment covenants in the Rock Creek West planning area, if one, they were imposed prior to the 1938 enactment of the Zoning Act, and two, multifamily housing would otherwise be permitted on the lot under modern planning and zoning laws. Be it further resolved, ANC3C supports extending the legislation to declare void as contrary to public policy any anti-apartment covenants in the entirety of the District of Columbia. If one, they were imposed prior to the 1938 enactment of the Zoning Act, and two, multifamily housing would otherwise be permitted on the lot under modern planning and zoning laws. Be it resolved that ANC3C supports the legislation that would affirm racist covenants unlawful across the District of Columbia, allow property owners to release these covenants from a deed through recordation of an amendatory instrument with the Recorder of Deeds, and waive any fees from the Recorder of Deeds required to do so. Be it further resolved that ANC3C supports extending the legislation to proactively remove racist covenants as the Recorder of Deeds discovers their existence. Be resolved, the chair and the commissioners, for I believe Commissioner Prinzo offered to co-sponsor this, represent the commission on this matter. A few questions that I did get that came up regarding the 1938 Zoning Act. That is what the council member mentions in the legislation. That is a bit of where the more bad parts of zoning law came up in that part of the 1930s. the difference between multifamily and apartment terminology. Again, I cribbed that exactly from Councilmember Fruman's bill. So if hopefully that will get reconciled on that end, but I didn't want to cause further confusion or any confusion by calling it either multifamily or apartment. So that's where that's coming from. Commissioner Nash, I know during the Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development meeting, you had questioned the housing counts, which are linked in citation number 2 here with opendc.gov DEMPED 36,000 by 2025 dashboard. It isn't clear as to like the exact count of date. I'm assuming the new affordable production units are ones that have a certificate of occupancy and the construction has been complete. Anticipated would probably be once a permit is pulled. So the Wardman's not going to be in there, nor should it be. Whether or not City Ridge is in there, it gave such a limited amount of affordable units under this program that it's not moving the needle one way or another to get this planning area anywhere closer to its goal. So I don't know that that's like a critical piece of information to have to agree that these covenants should be knocked away and that these restrictions where apartments once were allowed to be built should be allowed to be built again. There was another question, I think from Kathy Gibbons, regarding how many potential lots this might affect. Commissioner Siddiqui lives in a 5-story apartment building on Connecticut Avenue that will be legal to be built today. There was a case over near McLean Gardens, which was taken up last term by this commission regarding a what had been a converted single family home during the 1970s. It was demised into 8, possibly 9 apartment units. It had an exemption, was grandfathered in. However, while that would have remained, the building owner, the units would have remained the same count of whatever was under that grandfather clause, whether it was 7 or 8. They wanted to go build to the lot line that exists under single family home zoning, which is what it is currently sitting under, keep the amount of units, but increase the square footage. Instead of it having, I believe, 9 bedrooms across these 7 or 8 units, it would have like 42. It would be larger units, still 8 units, just more bedrooms in each unit. And that was not allowed by right. So that was 42 beds in this high opportunity zone that were just denied because of these covenants and this inability to turn a single family home into a multi-unit building where it could have and should have and did exist for years. So I don't have a count on exactly how many of those exist throughout Ward 3, but I am aware of a number. So hopefully that answers some questions folks had that I've heard over the past week and a half or so. With that, I'll open it up to any other commissioners who have questions, comments. Mr. Nash.
Sure. I was going to wait and see if others wanted to comment in favor or not. I asked that this be moved to the regular business calendar, and let me explain why. I mean, first of all, this resolution covers three different pieces of legislation. And while they are similar in some ways, at least one of them differs fairly significantly. I strongly support Bill 25482, which makes it easier to expunge illegal covenants, racially exclusionary covenants from deeds. And I also support Bill 480, which deals with Chevy Chase section of the current commercial area up there where the library and community center sit. I do have serious reservations and concerns about 481, which is the Rock Creek West bill. And I intend to abstain from this resolution as a result, even though I strongly support two of the three bills. I note I'm probably not the only one who has concerns about it, because this particular bill, 481 on Rock Creek West, has the fewer council co-sponsors than the other pieces of legislation. And as Chair Pagets noted, it also did lead to some discussion at the Planning and Zoning Committee. Unlike the Chevy Chase bill, which has some degree of specificity around it and specifically discusses the problem that is trying to solve and that is tied to lots and squares, the Rock Creek bill, West bill, is pretty open-ended. And there was discussion at the Planning and Zoning Commission or committee of what the impacts would be, and particularly what unforeseen impacts would be. It's overbroad. And at that meeting, Councilmember Fruman's constituent services director attended, and we appreciated that. And she promised to take some questions back to the council office. And I appreciate that the legislative council, who is presumably the principal author of the legislation, has left. But still, these questions and some follow-ups to that, haven't been answered. And I hope that the council member will consider responding to these questions and sharpening the legislation by the time it reaches the hearing. I mean, for example, by nullifying all covenants relating to restrictions on apartments throughout the ward, it leaves unanswered questions on, would it invalidate regulations, or a covenant that puts a limit on the height of an apartment building, or provides for a setback, or creates a view easement where no building in a particular envelope, be it apartment or single family or anything else, can be built. So, these are questions, again, I think that need to be addressed so that we understand what the impact would be. My concerns about it don't relate as much to the figures that the bill cites from the Office of Planning on the number of affordable units in Ward 3, although I do have questions about the accuracy of those figures. I mean, they note that there are only 83 affordable units, but again, if you look at City Ridge, which is already being occupied, and the building next door, 4000 Wisconsin, which is being leased, although is not completed, it's a total of 1,379 units, of which 121 are supposed to be inclusionary zoning. And I do agree with the chair that the number in City Ridge is small. It's 56 out of 690 units, which, if DC is going to count on inclusionary zoning to reach its affordability goals by 2025, it means that they'd have to build about 32 more City Ridges just to reach the number of units 1990 that are in the mayor's 2025 goals. The way the city is going to move the needle if it continues to want to use IZ for affordable housing, is to increase the minimums. I mean, as we've discussed before, DC's, baseline minimum for affordable housing is 8%, 8 to 10%, which is about half of what Montgomery County requires as its baseline. So I hope also the council member will consider increasing that. So anyway, I appreciate the chance to state my concerns and questions.
Great. Thank you. And yeah, I do agree that council does need to tackle the minimums on this too, but I don't think that's what the issue is in these bills. And I don't think that anything in this would have blow through a height limit on anything. That's a different beast entirely. This is more just the you can't have this type of housing, not what the underlying height and all of that setback is of this. It's the typology that's being exclusionary.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I can just respond, I mean, the bill says it voids, all covenants that would limit, apartment buildings, for example. And I'm just pointing out that there are, there can be covenant situations where, like Chevy Chase, the intent, exclusionary intent can be inferred from circumstantial evidence. And there are other covenants that could, only marginally impact apartments, but the bill doesn't distinguish those. So I think that's a question that the council member's office will need to address by the time they go to hearing.
Okay. Commissioner Geis.
Thank you so much, Chair. Apologies. Thank you so much, Chair Pagets. Can I direct a question to Commissioner Nash?
Sure.
Thank you so much. So a quick question I had was, and I'm really appreciative of you sharing your thoughts. It seems like you put a lot of thought into this, and for that, I'm very grateful. In the rationale for, your concerns, you mentioned, a lack of co-sponsors on the bill as sort of evidence for a lack of popular support. I looked at the different, the list of co-sponsors for the different bills. It looks like the only co-sponsor missing on this bill would be the chair of the council, Chairman Mendelson. Do you think the chair withholding a co-sponsor is representative of a lack of popular support for this measure? Because I think characterizing it as less popular because of fewer co-sponsors. Would you agree with my concern?
Well, first of all, I didn't mean to suggest either a popular support or a lack of popular support. What I did note was that this bill had fewer co-sponsors, and I would note that at least the chairman is not signed on. And in my experience, the chairman tends to read bills pretty carefully, and he's a careful draftsman. So, I'm assuming that he also sees some of the vagueness and the potential overreach in this particular bill. My understanding is that the bill is not intended to override zoning, that it's supposed to function where zoning rules, would allow multifamily. But, some of the situations, again, I've heard illustrated, were ones where it was not the zoning, where it was the zoning rather than the covenants that would, preclude at least the degree of multifamily development that, people may seek in a particular spot.
Okay. Thank you. Any other commissioners have questions, discussion, comment? Then we'll open it up to the public. See no commissioners, any members of the public? All right. Kathy?
Thank you, Commissioner Baggett. Yeah, I think certainly I think almost everybody would be surely likely to be counted as in favor of two of the three bills as everybody's discussed. I think on the third bill, where I asked some questions in the committee. What I was thinking is if you have a kind of a broad, piece of legislation, you're saying that we want to allow multifamily building. I think people know what we're talking about there. To be done anywhere that that modern standards would allow it. That seems to me really, quite a vague, sort of approach. Normally, what I would expect when I see something like that, that's kind of broad, you're not quite sure where it could be going, I'd expect to see an introduction, to the bill that would really explain fairly well what is the reason for doing this and where are we thinking that we would go with this additional flexibility. Everybody knows we've got a housing affordability problem. Everybody knows that we especially have a low, income affordability, problem with housing. But what are we talking here about doing? Because there isn't a logical connection necessarily between where you put buildings and who you would be serving. So I didn't think that the piece of legislation, along with its introduction, stood on anything that I could really understand, as far as what the intention of this would be. And I don't think I think that a lot of us kind of can guess where the council member is trying to go. I mean, he's well intentioned on this. He's looking for some additional flexibility so that you can, put some buildings maybe where there have been single family houses. We all understand the exclusionary nature of some zoning that doesn't allow for construction, where there has been some single family housing. But what does he really mean? What are these modern standards or whatever that would, be permitted to prevail? I think it just needs to be tightened up before we proceed with with endorsing it. And I don't know, it doesn't seem to me as though that necessarily should be so difficult. You either change some aspects of the legislation, or you change and specify what the purpose would be and how it would roll out. That's it. But thank you for letting me have a chance to say that.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I encourage everyone to sign up to testify at the hearing. That's the whole purpose of the hearing, is to hear feedback like this and improve the bill. But I think hearing what the community has said through where we had the discussion around the undesigning the red line, the grant that we gave to that exhibit, and knowing that folks are interested in untangling and making right some of these wrongs, or at least not continuing on with them. I think we've heard a lot from the community and a lot of interest in that. So I also saw this as an opportunity to get more of the community engaged with providing feedback, like what you just said, Kathy. I think that's yes, needs to be heard, needs work on, right? So I appreciate it. Thank you. Commissioner Prinzo?
I'd like to call the question.
Okay, is there a second to moving to a vote on this?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of moving to a vote, raise your hand or say aye. I am seeing all but one. All those opposed, raise your hand or say no. This is moving to a vote. This is not the vote. All those abstaining.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, moving to the vote.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the supportive resolution to these three bills, raise your hand or say aye. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hands. All those opposed, raise your hand or say no. All those abstaining. Okay, there's 1 abstention and 0 no's. The motion passes, the resolution passes. So thank you all. And again, please provide written testimony, sign up to testify in person. If you need any help with any of that, let me know, or let the council member's office know, and they'll certainly hopefully walk you through those steps. All right, moving on to our next item, which is now lost on me. The ANC annual report. Commissioner Frenzo.
So thank you, Commissioner Paget. Every year, the ANCs are required to submit an annual report to the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions, the Council, and the Mayor's Office on activities that we undertook in the past year. So November 2022 through October of 2023. This mainly focuses on January through November January through October because of the term change. I sent around a draft of so what we are going to do is we are sending the 3-page overview document, which is just statistics on what resolutions we passed this year. We passed 66 resolutions for anybody who was interested. And we stood up 4 new committees this year alone. And with that, we will also send a copy of all of the approved minutes from November 2022 through October of 2023. So with that, I will move that. I do need a roll call vote on this, but I will move that.
I'll second, and then open it up for a discussion. I know Commissioner Kripke had the suggestion of adding just the 2 grants that we approved and the notation that one's still under ONSE review.
Okay, I can try. There was obviously some space limitations on that page, but I will try to add it.
It's meant to be a friendly suggestion. If it's a problem, we don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I will try to work it in with the space and send it around.
Okay. So you're accepting that as a friendly edit suggestion?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. Any other commissioners? Any members of the public? All right.
Just to say thanks to Adam for pulling this together.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And the rest of the packages of the minutes that go with this. Some commissions do like a real way shaming good job with
I know.
but you did a really good job in the amount of time you put this together.
Well, we got our email and then I was looking into it yesterday. I was like, oh, we have to like do a whole thing.
Yeah, no, you did a really, really good job. I thought you had been working on it for months, frankly. All right, with that, unless there is any one objecting at this time, I'd like to move to the roll call vote of this, if there's a second to do so. Commissioner said second. Cool. Okay, appreciate it. All right, with that, Commissioner Prinzo, you want to call the roll, please?
Commissioner Geis.
Aye.
I am voting yes. Commissioner Pagets.
Yes.
Commissioner McCorston.
Yes.
Commissioner Siddiqui is absent. Commissioner Gordon.
Yes.
Commissioner Kripke.
Yes.
And Commissioner Nash.
Yes.
Thank you. 7 and 1 absent.
Yep. Motion passes to approve the report to send to ONSE. Appreciate it. All right. We don't have a treasurer this evening, and I don't think he gave us anything to put in the treasurer's report. Commissioner Pinzo.
No.
Okay.
He did not.
So we will.
Can I motion to adjourn this meeting?
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
To adjourn? All of those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. I would like to wish everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving holiday, and be back at it next month. Really appreciate your time, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.